It was the silence in the room that told me she was gone. Not the open bottle of wine on the nightstand, not the stillness of her hand against the edge of the sheets. It was that flat, suffocating silence. No rustle of breath, no shift in posture, no day when I stepped in through the half-open motel door. Just a kind of stillness that crawled into my spine and never left. The TV was on, a muted infomercial selling steak knives. I stared at it for a long time before I noticed the stain beneath her nose. I was 37 then. My name is David Harmon, born in 1961, grew up in West Hartford, Connecticut, father in insurance, mother a second-grade art teacher. We had a porch swing and a rusted Ford in the driveway, a family that waved politely and smiled in photograph. My younger brother, Joel, was always the one with straight A's and dimples, a natural liar who looked like a saint. I was quieter, sharper in some ways, duller in others. I married Dana in '92, after 3 years of late-night mixtapes and road trips with Broken Ace. She died in a motel room on March 11, 1996. Her body cold, her lipstick smeared, her soul, if it has a weight, vanished. I remember I didn't cry, not right away. The coroner's report said accidental overdose, trace fentanyl, possibly laced cocaine. She had no history of drug use, none. But there it was, printed in Carrier font on an official state document stamped and sealed. I asked them to run the toxicology again. They said no, no foul play, no open case. It was finished, tucked away in a file cabinet with hundreds of other quiet deaths. No one really grieves out loud. I couldn't sleep for 3 nights. Then I found the voicemail. Her voice, frantic, left at 2:17 a.m. Dave, if you get this, I made a mistake. Joel, he just called me. Please don't trust. And then silence. A sharp click. Joel, my brother. That voicemail shattered everything. She'd told me he'd been calling her, that he'd come to the apartment while I was out of town, that he said he wanted to talk. I didn't ask what about. I didn't want to know. That was February. She was dead in March. The pieces had always been there. I just didn't want to put them together. I used to think betrayal came like thunder, loud and sudden. But no, it comes quietly, in cups of coffee, in smirks, in open motel doors. He was there. I know he was, but I couldn't prove it. Not yet. I stopped working. I was freelancing copy at the time. Scripts for car dealerships and radio jingles that made me want to drive off a bridge. After Dana, I couldn't even write a grocery list. I started waking up at 2 or 3 in the morning, heart thumping, her voice stuck in my throat. I began walking aimlessly, just pacing the streets of West Hartford, past the houses we used to egg as kids. I'd walk until the birds started chirping, then sit on the porch and smoke. I hadn't smoked since college. Joel sent flowers, a stupid card. She was a light in the dark. Fuck you, Joel. He didn't call, not once. The only family I had left didn't even come to the funeral. I told myself I'd let it go. That grief was making me paranoid, that there were explanations, logical ones, but every time I tried to bury it, her voice would come back. That voicemail, those last seconds, the shake in her breath. Joel, Joel, Joel. The same kid who used to shove me off my bike and smile when Mom asked what happened. The same kid who let me take the blame when he smashed Dad's watch. The same kid who wore a tie to Sunday school but stole from the collection plate. He got away with everything, always, but not this time. I started digging, first just into her phone records, then I called a friend who worked in telecom, lied about a legal dispute he owed me from back in '89 when I helped cover up his DUI. He pulled some strings. There were texts. Dana had deleted most of them, but the timestamps remained. Over 60 messages from Joel in the 2 weeks before she died, all late night, some minutes apart. One was sent just 4 hours before she was found. Come to 10108, please. I'll explain everything. Room 108. I couldn't breathe when I read that. I drove out there that night, to the motel. It was in East Windsor, off a quiet road with dying trees and blinking neon. Same place where they found her. I walked to room 108. I stood outside, hands shaking. Then I knocked. No answer, of course, but something cracked in me right there on that concrete landing. I knew he did it, maybe not with his hands, but with his words, his lies, his threats, whatever passed between them in that room. It killed her. Whether he pushed her, supplied her, or just watched her die, I didn't care. He was guilty, and I was going to make him remember it. In April, I moved back to the old cabin. It was a rotting shell by then, no insulation, mice in the floorboards, but it was quiet, and I needed quiet, the kind of silence that lets you think in long, cold lines. I brought boxes of Dana's things with me, letters, photographs, an old Walkman with her mixtapes. One of them had her voice on it, a joke she'd left after recording over a Counting Crows track. David, if you're listening to this, you better not be skipping to side B. Side B sucks. I played that line over and over. It made me laugh, then it made me sob. I found the envelope 6 days into the move. It was tucked inside an old psychology textbook from UMass, Cognitive Dissonance and Behavioral Fracture. Fitting title. The envelope was addressed to me but never mailed. Inside was a single page. Her handwriting, unmistakable. David, I'm sorry I didn't tell you everything. Joel has been calling. He came over once, then again. He said if I talked he'd ruin you, that he'd lie, make it look like I was unstable. I think he meant it. I don't know what to do. If anything happens to me, start with the lie he told you in February. She underlined February twice. February. The night he came over with a bottle of Glenlivet, said he wanted to reconnect. Dana laughed too loud that night. I thought it was just nerves. She went to bed early. Joel stayed up. We talked about baseball, politics, old teachers. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "You're lucky, man. You've got something real. Fucking liar." That was the lie. That moment. That night. It had all started then. I didn't sleep again for 4 days. I started drawing timelines, red string bullshit, but it helped. There were gaps, holes. I knew I had to fill them. So I started watching him. Joel still lived in Ridgefield. Big house, manicured lawn, BMW in the driveway, 2 kids, trophy wife, business partner at a real estate firm that flipped foreclosures into condos. He gave TED Talks, emotional intelligence in the workplace. Jesus Christ. I drove down there on a Monday, parked 2 blocks away, watched from a diner window with burnt coffee and pancakes that tasted like rubber. He came out at 7:45 a.m., kissed his wife on the cheek and jogged the same route he had in college. I watched him for 6 days. Same routine, same mask, but I saw the cracks. He checked his phone obsessively, got twitchy when someone came up behind him, and every night he stared at himself in the mirror above the kitchen sink for at least 30 seconds. Not normal behavior. He remembered. He was scared. Good. I wanted him to stay scared. I didn't tell anyone what I was doing. Not my ex-colleagues. Not my therapist from years ago. Not even the bartender at O'Malley's who used to know when to keep quiet and when to offer another pour. No one. Because if I said it out loud it would become real, tangible, criminal. But inside it had already solidified. The idea of revenge was no longer a question. It was a design, a process, a blueprint being inked deeper every day. I wasn't looking for justice anymore. I didn't believe in that word. Justice was a soft-handed myth told to children by men in uniforms. I wanted him to feel it. Not fear. Not shame. I wanted Joel to feel her. Dana. Her absence. Her breath leaving the room. Her eyes going still. I wanted that weight to crush his lungs every time he tried to sleep. So I got to work. First thing I needed was leverage. I remembered a name, Garrett Cross, Joel's business partner. He'd mentioned him back in February. That same night he came over with the Glenlivet. Garrett's a shark, he'd said, but he gets shit done. I did some digging, found Garrett's firm. They were running a series of developments in Dandridge. I called pretending to be a reporter from the Hartford Courant, writing a piece on up-and-coming real estate moguls. Garrett loved it. Over drinks at a bland steakhouse he talked for 2 hours straight, told me about everything, contracts, market shifts, tax shelter, Joel's role in the company, his temperament, his reputation. I took notes between bites of dry fillet, then I steered the conversation. You guys ever get into anything tricky? You know, legal gray areas, off-the-books deals? He hesitated, just a second, then laughed. Well, Joel's done things I wouldn't touch, but hey, that's why he makes the big bucks. There it was, the opening. I got his assistant's name from a business card on the table, Lydia. 2 weeks later I called her. from a burner phone pretending to be Garrett's accountant. Told her we needed scanned copies of all 1995-1996 hotel expenses for a pending audit. She hesitated, but I used Garrett's voice, mimicked it, clipped and dry. She emailed them. Joel had used the company card 4 times at the motel where Dana died. 4 times. Same room. That was the point of no return. I printed the receipts, lined them up next to the phone logs, the messages, the voicemail, the letter. A crime scene made of paper, but I still needed him to break, not just to confess. That wasn't enough. He needed to suffer, the way she did. So I started leaving pieces, anonymous letters, no return address, no fingerprints, just pieces. A copy of one receipt mailed to his office, a printout of the voicemail transcript taped to his front door, a photo of Dana from 1994, smiling beside a pumpkin, left on his windshield. Every delivery timed, every image curated. He got paranoid fast, started canceling meetings, hired private security. I even saw a motion detector light installed on his back porch. But the thing about fear, it spreads, it consumes, and it makes you careless. He started drinking again. I followed him to a bar in Norwalk, sat 3 stools down. He didn't recognize me, or maybe he did, and just couldn't say it. He drank bourbon, neat, 2 fingers. His hand trembled when he lifted the glass. I leaned in, soft voice. You remember what happened in 10:08? He looked up, blank face. I stood and left. The next night he called me, blocked number. David, he said, I didn't speak. I don't know what you think you know, but please, just stop. He sounded tired, defeated, not guilty, but close. I hung up. Then came the final piece, the invitation, handwritten, thick cream stock paper, same kind we used to print wedding invites on in '92. Joel, I want to talk, one final time. No police, no threats. Come to room 108, Friday, midnight. You owe me that much. I didn't sign it, but he knew. I wasn't sure he'd come, but I had hope. Not hope for resolution, hope for punishment. I spent that entire Friday preparing. The room hadn't changed in years. Stained carpet, pale yellow walls, that horrible landscape painting above the bed, the same one Dana died beneath. I brought the receipts, the voicemail, her letter, the old cassette. I even brought the knife, not to use, not necessarily, just in case. I waited in the dark, lights off, curtains drawn. When I heard the door open, something in me died. Not fear, not hate, just something soft, something like humanity. He stepped in slow, looked around. David. I didn't answer. He flicked on the light, saw the photos, the receipts, me. He froze. I stood, closed the door. I said, he did. You know why you're here. His voice cracked. Please, listen. It wasn't Dana. She wasn't. Don't say her name. He flinched. I tossed the receipts at his feet, then the voicemail. I didn't touch her, he whispered. I stepped closer. You killed her, I said. He collapsed into the chair by the bed. Not from memory. She was going to tell you, he said. She wanted to. I told her it would ruin everything. You, me. She panicked. She used. I didn't give it to her. I swear to God I didn't. But you didn't stop her. He shook his head. I left, he said. She was alive when I left. That line. That fucking line. Then why the hell didn't you call me? I shouted. Because I was scared. He screamed it, voice breaking, eyes red, and I realized he wasn't lying. Not about that, but the truth didn't help. It made it worse. Worse because he had stood there, watched her fall, heard her breath slip away, and walked out, left her to die alone. Alone, like she was nothing, like she was trash. I took out the knife. His eyes went wide. He started begging, tears, snot, all of it, but I didn't cut him, not yet. Instead, I hit play on the cassette, her voice, that old joke about side B. Joel sobbed. I turned the volume up, then I taped his mouth shut, bound his wrists, left him there. No blood, not yet, just fear, just time. I wanted him to sit in it, to live in it, to feel every molecule of her absence until it crushed him. And when he finally passed out, I stood over him and whispered, you don't get to forget. Then I left everything, even the knife. He never called the police, not even after they found him. A motel attendant discovered him the next morning, tied up, dehydrated, shivering from fear and exposure. The story made the local papers. Break-in at historic Windsor Motor Inn. They spun it as a robbery gone wrong. Joel didn't correct them. He told his wife it was a disgruntled investor, someone from a failed development deal. She believed him, at least for a while, until the tape arrived. A copy of the cassette, digitized and anonymous, mailed directly to their mailbox in a plain envelope. Dana's voice, her fears, her goodbye. I never heard back from either of them after that, but I watched the fallout unfold from afar like a man observing a car fire through binoculars. Joel took an extended leave of absence from his firm. His wife moved out 2 months later. No divorce, just distance. I suppose some wounds don't need legal finality. They're final enough. I should have felt triumph, relief, justice. But what I felt instead was emptiness, a silence deeper than the one in that motel room. I moved again, this time to a smaller place, deeper in Vermont, a town no one writes songs about, no post office, no gas station, just a long road and a radio signal that fades after dusk. I didn't talk to anyone, didn't write, didn't drink, I just existed. Months passed like snow falling on a windshield, quiet and obscuring. I listened to Dana's tapes less and less. They stopped feeling like company and started feeling like rot. I couldn't bear her voice anymore, not because I stopped loving her, but because it reminded me of who I used to be, and that man was gone. One morning in October, I looked in the mirror, and didn't recognize myself. Hollow cheeks, yellowed eyes, stubble that grew like weeds in drought. I said her name aloud, Dana, and it sounded foreign, like something scraped off a tombstone in someone else's dream. I started thinking about the motel again, not the night of the confrontation, not Joel, but the aftermath, the way I walked out and never looked back, the knife still on the floor, the tape still playing. I didn't stop him, I didn't kill him, but I didn't save him either. You see, that's the part I've never been able to reconcile. If I had murdered him, it would have been easier. Prison, headlines, a clean punishment. But what I did, what I chose, I built a cage and walked away. I became the warden of my own nightmare, because the real punishment, the one I designed so intricately, was never for Joel, it was for me. I live with it every single goddamn day. There was one more letter, buried in Dana's box of college memorabilia. I didn't find it until years later, on a day when the snow was too thick to shovel, and I thought about ending it all with a bottle of Xanax and a bottle of gin. The letter was dated 2 weeks before her death, folded inside an old concert ticket stub for RM at the Meadows. It read, David, if something happens to me, and you're reading this, please know that I loved you. What happened between me and Joel wasn't love, it was confusion, guilt. He made me feel like I owed him something because he knew things about me you didn't. Weak things. I was scared you'd see them too, but you always saw me, the real me. You saw through my armor, and I never told you how much that scared me, how much I loved you for it. Don't let him take that part of you. Please, David, don't become him. I folded the letter back up, put it in the fire, watched it curl and vanish. Too late. I think about room 108 sometimes. I think about the lies that took root there, about how Joel sat in that chair and didn't beg for forgiveness, just survival. I think about how the line between grief and madness is a thread soaked in gasoline, and I think about who I am now, not a brother, not a husband, not even a man really, just a voice in a cabin, talking to no one, talking to her, talking to myself. Some nights I imagine she's still here, just in the other room, listening to side B, laughing at how shitty the last track is. I let myself believe that for a little while. I let the lie take me, because in the end that's all I ever had. Not justice, not truth, just the lie, and the silence that followed. I once read that grief rewires the brain, not just metaphorically, neurologically. Your synapses reroute, memory becomes fragmented, time distorts. People say it gets better, but what they mean is you will get used to being haunted. I didn't. I stayed haunted. One morning, I woke to find the front door open. Snow blew across the hardwood floor. My footprints were the only ones leading in or out. But there was something else. An envelope, resting on the doorstep. Same cream paper I'd used for the invite to Joel. Only this one had my name on it. My real name, handwritten in black ink. I opened it. Inside was a single photograph. Joel, sitting on a bench, his head in his hands. Beside him a girl I didn't recognize, long brown hair, smiling. The back of the photo read, "She looks like Dana, doesn't she?" No return address, no note, just that. I stared at it for hours, then I burned it. But it didn't leave me, because there was something about the girl, the way her smile curled, her eyes, almost amused. She looked like Dana, yes, but not from when she died. She looked like Dana from before we met. The next day I drove to Ridgefield. Joel's house was gone, not burned, sold, transferred 6 months prior, no forwarding address. The firm had dissolved, Garrett had vanished too. The entire web of names and documents I'd built had quietly unraveled. I started questioning everything. Had Joel sent that photo? Was someone playing me? Had someone been watching me all this time? I went home, pulled out all the records, voicemail files, timestamps, receipts, and then I saw it. One of the phone calls, the one that convinced me Dana had met Joel the night before she died, was dated February 29, 1996. There was no February 29th in 1996. That year wasn't a leap year. I stared at that detail until my eyes blurred. It couldn't be right. It wasn't right. Had it always been like that? Had I made a mistake? Had I invented it? I started going through the letter she wrote, comparing handwriting, ink patterns, pressure depth. Then I compared it to a note I had written to her years before. The curves of the D, the tilt of the T, it matched. Exactly. My hand, my pressure, my stroke. It was my handwriting. I had written the letter, or someone pretending to be me. But there was no someone. I lived alone. And that's when it hit me. A fracture. A canyon inside me that had always been there, quietly widening. What if she didn't leave a letter? What if she didn't call that night? What if she overdosed, alone, and I just needed a villain? What if Joel didn't kill her? And then, what if I did? The memory's not clear anymore, just impressions. Wine spilled on a cheap motel carpet, voices raised, hands clenched, a fall, a scream, silence. I remember her face, tilted awkwardly, like a doll left on the floor, the lights buzzing overhead, the sound of my own breathing fast and sharp, a hotel key in my hand, mine, not Joel's. I remember running, I remember the guilt, I remember the fear, so I rewrote it. Recast myself as the grieving lover, the brother betrayed, the hunter, and I hunted, not him, myself. All those years, all that rage, all that darkness, carefully poured into another man's shadow, because the truth, the real vile, unfaceable truth, Dana didn't die at Joel's hands, she died at mine, and the monster I wanted to punish had always been living in my own skin. I can still hear her laugh. Still feel the weight of her mixtapes, still smell the perfume she wore that made me believe in second chances. But she's gone, and I'm still here, alone, a liar, a murderer, a man who built a cathedral of vengeance just to avoid a single mirror. If you're reading this, whoever you are, it means I finally told the truth. Not to be forgiven, not to be understood, just to be known. The cabin's quiet now, snow's falling again. I think I'll go sit in it for a while. Maybe I'll see her there, maybe I won't, but at least the lie is over, and the silence feels honest.